We've all been sold this massive myth. You build power lines and boom, factories just magically appear, right? Well, today we are unpacking a huge data drop out of South Africa that completely shatters that illusion. If you're ready for a serious reality check, let's dive into the explainer. Picture this. It's 1994. South Africa just ended apartheid. The government goes all in, spending $1.4 billion to drag thick power cables out to remote rural villages. 2 million homes get electricity literally for the very first time. Everyone assumed this would be an instant economic miracle. Factories would rise up and industrial jobs would just flood the countryside. But what actually happened? Brace yourself for the data slap. Negative 1.7%. In those newly electrified areas, male employment didn't boom at all. It dropped. It actually fell by 1.7 percentage points. No way, right? It honestly makes zero sense. The men lost jobs. The women saw their average wages completely drop. Talk about massive cognitive dissonance. A billion-dollar infrastructure miracle looked, on paper at least, like a total economic disaster. So what went wrong? Well, raw numbers lie. And here, they lied because of a brutal economic coincidence. At the exact same time these power lines were going up, South Africa as a whole was bleeding jobs nationwide. So this massive macro-level wave of unemployment completely masked what the electricity was actually doing on the ground. Now, when common sense hits a dead end, economists have to get creative. To cut through all that noise of national job losses, researchers found this absolute genius cheat code: geography. Here is a dirty little secret about infrastructure. Power companies are cheap. When the local utility, Eskom, rolled out this massive grid, they didn't care if a village was rich or poor. They only cared about the cost. Laying cables on flat land, incredibly cheap. Hauling them up steep mountainsides, way too expensive. And that created a flawless chain of logic for the researchers. Flat land means cheap wiring. Cheap wiring means flat villages get power first. So they use the Earth's natural slope as a perfectly unbiased filter. By comparing those flat villages to the steep ones, they completely stripped away the noise of the national economy. It isolated the exact singular impact of simply turning on the lights. With all that noise gone, the core truth finally emerges, and it's a real game changer. Electricity didn't magically spawn factories in the countryside. It created something way more valuable: time. The grid didn't lure massive corporations to rural towns. Instead, it radically dismantled the brutal reality of everyday home life. Try to imagine life before the grid. Pre-1996, almost 80% of rural households were trapped in this exhausting daily grind just to survive. Families spent hours, literally hours, every single day, trekking, scavenging, and chopping wood just to cook and stay warm. It was a massive, crushing waste of human potential. But the second the grid arrived, human behavior changed overnight. In those electrified flatlands, electric lighting adoption violently spiked by 63%. Absolutely no hesitation. Remote homes dumped their candles and their firewood, instantly embracing the modern era. Behind all this data is raw human liberation. It's the sheer contrast between hours of back-breaking, exhausting labor swinging an axe and the instant freedom of just flipping a switch. Electricity didn't bring the roar of factory machinery. It literally gave people hours of their lives back from domestic chores every single day. And here is the ultimate domino effect. Flatland gets power. The woodchopping ends. Suddenly, women gained 9 extra hours of free time every single week. 9 hours. That completely changed the game. Freed from all those chores, women flooded the labor market. Power lines didn't pull men into factories. They liberated women from the home. But wait a second. That brings us right back to our original unresolved mystery. If women were finally free to go out and work, why did their average wages completely nosedive? The answer is hiding right in this explosive number: positive 9.5%. Female employment didn't just inch up, it skyrocketed. Almost 15,000 women instantly rushed into the local labor pool. It was a massive, absolutely unprecedented supply shock. Let's break down the bare-bones economics here. Corporate demand, totally stagnant. There was no factory boom ready to hire all these people. But the female labor supply, it absolutely exploded because of all that newly gained free time. The results? This massive flood of women started tiny, informal micro-businesses and street stalls. The sheer volume of this entry-level hustle mathematically dragged the overall average wage down. Now, this study is an absolute masterclass in using geographic data to cut through the noise. But as critical thinkers, we always have to flip the lens. Even the most brilliant analytical hacks have their blind spots. Let's quickly rattle off those limitations. First, there's no direct hard data on local microfactories. Second, you've got migration noise. What if ambitious people just packed up and moved to the flat plains, chasing the bright lights? And finally, census data notoriously undercounts informal gig economy jobs held by men. We always have to keep these realities in mind, even when looking at absolutely stunning data. But flaws and all, the truth this data exposes is profound. The real power of infrastructure isn't just in turning on machines, it's in freeing human time. A true modern economic miracle doesn't always look like a towering, smoking factory. Sometimes it looks exactly like a woman who finally has the hours in her day to start her very first business. Does that change how you look at the power lines outside your window? Think about it. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.